Now, I didn't go heavy into this because there's a lot of people debating and egos get involved about what guns to have. But personally, I believe a shotgun or two, an assault rifle for everyone who might need one, and some concealable handguns, spare magazines, and hundreds of rounds for each weapon. I've got an article that gives advice on gun selection. I am not really that knowledgeable about guns, but I can shoot pretty good, but I tried to take apart my .45 and clean it, and I couldn't, a little thing fell out, and I couldn't put it back together. So I took it to a gunsmith, he fixed it, and I said, I want to sell it. I want something that's idiot-proof. So a friend of mine said, buy a Glock. Glock has only 4 moving parts, the Glock handgun. So I got a couple of them, and I got a Ruger SP-101, which is a hammerless revolver. It shoots 5 shots, and you can carry it concealed very easy. You know, it's pretty idiot-proof. It doesn't have a safety. You just pull the trigger, and the same with the Glock. The Glock, the safety's on the trigger, but you can leave leave the chamber empty, and then chamber around if you want to do that, if you feel that it might be unsafe. But I definitely think everyone should have a gun. I mean, if you're going to defend your house. But anything would be better than nothing. I mean, a crossbow, a spear, a knife, tear gas. Wasp spray will shoot 20 feet and will totally disable somebody.
Can you buy tear gas?
Oh yeah, you can buy tear gas at Harbor Freight or yeah. I got a canister that you can throw out and clear out the whole room. You know, it's legal as far as I know. Yeah, he's not going to carry that much. Okay, on communications, shortwave radio is very good for receiving news. Marine VHF radio is very powerful, but they're illegal to use on land. Ham radio is my personal preference. I will again tell you, we're not experts on this. Radios are very complicated, but I got one. You know, this is idiot-proof for like 40 bucks.
Open the radio.
Okay, you got a little Chinese woman saying, "Open the radio," and she tells you what to do. You know, so you can talk to the repeater. There's a repeater on the hospital at the top of the SMH, and you can project onto that, and it repeats your signal for as far as the antenna line of sight is there. So you can greatly extend your range with repeaters, although they might not be always functioning in a crunch situation. But as long as the hospital has power, you know, you can extend your range. But these will go line of sight, but you can create antennas that you can take this off and hook up an antenna that you make and put it way up in a tree. And then it'll go as far as the line of sight on the top of your antenna. So if anyone's interested in this, we're trying to make a little club that tests, emergency communications. So just contact us because we're still buying our equipment, and that's why I have it tonight. And
where do you get that one?
This I just got from a friend, but you can order a Wuxen. I'll show you. This comes highly recommended. We bought this brand, KG-UV2D Wuxen. It was 113 bucks. You can't beat this. Handheld. It's a 2-meter, and it's a little hard to figure out how to operate that. That's why I still don't know how to do it. But once you do program it, you're good to go. And you can spend hundreds on these things, and I'd recommend just getting a handheld one unless you know what you're doing. Now, you do have to have a license to transmit on these, but if the crunch was here, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But you might want to practice, they actually would track you down, like in World War II. What you do is you broadcast, you transmit for 30 seconds, and then you run a mile. And they can't really find you that easy. And you have codes and so forth. Like the chair is in the woods or something like that, and that's telling them, that there's a hostile force moving down 41 or whatever. I mean, so communications, I chose ham. There's a guy named Rawls, and he, R-A-W-L-E-S, he's a very good expert on survivalism. He has a blog, I think it's called survivalblog.com, and he writes books. I've got 2 of his books, and he recommends MURS walkie-talkies, M-U-R-S, and also field telephones for if you have a retreat, which is to say just the landlines, so that it's totally secure communication that can't be tapped into. But you definitely need a way of communicating, in my opinion. What I'm trying to do is, I know some people that can use Morse code and go all around the world with their batteries and their 40-foot antennas. So my goal is to be able to ask this guy to relay messages for me, or to get news, like, well, what's going on in Britain, what's going on, Canada, so forth. And so ideally, you have a network where one person has a very powerful transmitter, and then you talk to him. But you can do your own research. Like I say, contact me if you want to be part of our emergency network. Okay, now I just want to talk about energy production. Solar is fine for Florida. You will need solar panels and a charge controller and an inverter and batteries. I bought solar panels for $2 a watt from Craigslist, a company that gets them off of highway signs. And I got $800 worth. I got 400 watts. And then I bought a charge controller at Harbor Freight, and an inverter I already had. I think it was like 40 bucks. And then you have to get batteries, and there's a debate as to which are the best batteries. But basically, if you for 400 watt setup, maybe 2 batteries that are about $300 a piece would suffice. And I've got a diagram in here on how to hook it all up. You can run a small cabin with 400 watts of solar power. And that could, for example, it could run, 200 watts could run a freezer, a 5 cubic foot, highly efficient freezer. So you could be selling ice to the survivors, and that would be a really good sideline. And then the other 200 watts you could use for lights and DVD player for movie nights, and I mean, people. If there's no electricity, the people with solar, with alternate forms of energy are going to be really well off. I have a buddy. He has a 250 pounds of propane. 250 gallon tank, which he's filled, and another tank, and then he has a propane generator, and he can plug it into his house, or he can just have it power like 1 room worth of stuff. And propane stores a long time. I would recommend that over gasoline. You can also store diesel fairly long. So I have an energy report in this report, and also a battery report. But the bottom line, I would say get solar chargers for your small rechargeable batteries, and get Trojan golf cart batteries or AGM batteries for your solar arrays. I have a little, this is a solar battery charger for little rechargeable batteries. And they work okay, and I think I paid 30 bucks for this. And but the rechargeable batteries are more expensive, but they last a long time. Okay, then you've got entertainment / spiritual development. You're going to need, this is really personal for your preferences, but I suggest having a portable DVD and lots of movies. And you need to think about your morale during a crunch, and what you might be doing for fun. Decks of cards will be valuable. The memory stick full of information could be studied. You can use a laptop if you have power, which you should if you have, planned it out. And then I want to talk just a second about commerce. Have you thought how you might trade with people if there was no electricity? We were back to living as people did 100 years ago. Now, if the grid was still up, or if we encounter a slow burn situation, and the government becomes more repressive and forces a cashless society or one world currency upon us, there is an alternative currency called Bitcoin, which I highly recommend you investigate. I'm fascinated by it. It's a peer-to-peer electronic cash, and it is not controlled by any central force, and it cannot be shut down by any government. You know how the teenagers, they download music for free and they get away with it for years and nobody can stop them because they have these software that shares between hundreds and thousands of computers. And they're all linked together. And that's what Bitcoin is. It's a new form of money that's been put on the internet by some genius, and it's an open source software. And there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins created. So there's 6 million now. They're being created through a process called mining, where people let their computer be used to do algorithms, and then they get rewarded with these Bitcoins in blocks of 50 every so often. And we could have our money be sound, because this cannot be inflated like dollars. It's not. There can only be 21 million ever created. So the value of Bitcoins is only going to go up in relation to fiat currencies, which are endlessly inflated. So check that out. Then silver and gold coins, particularly silver dimes and quarters, are small enough that they are affordable, could be used for money. You should have a lot of your savings in this form, as this is a very safe way to protect money from the ravages of inflation which the government creates. So I would suggest creating barter networks now between neighbors. During the Depression, people bartered tremendously. And I have a couple of links you can check out. Farmers markets. This may be where we get our food in a crunch. These may be continued during a slow crunch, for example. And they may be the best or only source of fresh produce. So be aware of your farmers market. And then finally, forming a colony, aka a core group. That's a huge subject, and I intend to create a research report on this, which I will add in the future. But the bottom line is, in order to survive in a worst-case scenario, you may need to unite with others. And it takes many people to defend an area from attack. So I suggest you start networking with other potential core group members now and come up with plans on where to go, how to get supplies there. I will just say this, I was in a core group and it broke up because of ego considerations. Too many chefs spoil the soup, you know, and these are rugged individuals who, you know, survive. So it's hard to get a room of 12 of them together and agree what they're going to do. But I don't see it being easy to survive if there's looters out there. There's no government forces to help us and bands of looters. I mean, I don't want to live alone. So I strongly recommend you figure out where you're going to go and who you're going to be with. And pretty much that's it. That's it. I think you should download or go to either one of those websites and you can get this report. And it has, like I say, a bunch of other reports associated with it. Altogether, maybe 100 pages. And good luck. Thank you.